I swear, if anyone had told me that pulling an all-nighter with Joel would completely mess with my head, I would have laughed in their face. It was supposed to be simple. Just two exhausted college guys cramming for the hardest exam of the semester. That's it. Joel texted me at 7:42 p.m. Library or your place. We're so screwed for this exam. I stared at my phone for a solid minute before answering. Not because of the exam. Because of him. Joel. Tall. Broad shoulders. Always wearing those slightly too tight t-shirts that made it very hard to focus during lectures. Confident without trying. The kind of guy who would lean back in his chair and smirk when answering a question he definitely hadn't prepared for. And still get it right. We'd been in the same program for 2 years. Same friend group. Same study sessions sometimes. But this was the first time it would be just us. My place? I finally typed back. Library closes early anyway. He replied instantly. Perfect. I'll bring energy drinks. That should have been my first warning. By 8:30, he was at my door, holding a plastic bag filled with Red Bulls and protein bars like we were about to survive a natural disaster. You look stressed, he said, stepping inside without waiting for an invite. I am stressed, I shot back. This exam decides half our grade. He just grinned. Relax, Elliot. We'll survive. The way he said my name did something to me. Calm, confident, like he already knew everything would be fine. We spread our notes across my desk and the floor. Laptops open. Highlighters everywhere. The atmosphere was serious for about 20 minutes. Then Joel leaned back in my chair and groaned. Why does Professor Harding hate us? He doesn't hate us, I said, flipping through my notes. He just enjoys suffering. Joel laughed. That deep, easy laugh. It filled the room in a way that made my apartment feel smaller. I tried to focus. I really did. You're quiet, he said suddenly, looking at me instead of the textbook. I'm studying. He narrowed his eyes playfully. Or overthinking. I felt called out. Joel had this annoying ability to read me. I wasn't as obvious as some guys, but I wasn't exactly stone cold either. I'd never explicitly told him I was into men, but I never denied it when people joked about my lack of interest in girls. He never pushed, which somehow made it worse. By midnight, we were both running purely on caffeine and stubbornness. Okay, Joel said, rubbing his face. Explain the third theory again. Like I'm an idiot. You don't need it explained like that. Elliot. Fine. I sighed and moved closer so we could both see my laptop screen. I started explaining, but halfway through, I lost my train of thought. Wait, he said. You were saying something about external variables. Yeah, external variables. My voice sounded slightly off to my own ears. He turned his head slightly to look at me. You good? He asked quietly. His tone wasn't teasing this time. It was softer. Yeah, I said too quickly. Just tired. He held my gaze for a second longer than necessary. Not long enough to be obvious, but long enough to make my stomach tighten. Then he leaned back like nothing happened. Take a 5-minute break, he said. Your brain's overheating. So is yours. Yeah, but I'm hotter than you, so I can handle it. I rolled my eyes. You're insufferable. And yet you invited me over. That shut me up. Around 2 a.m., things started getting weird. Not dramatic. Not movie-level intense. Just subtle shifts. We moved from the desk to the floor because our backs were killing us. Books spread around us. My living room lights dimmed because the overhead was giving Joel a headache. At some point, he lay back against the couch, stretching his legs out. I was still sitting cross-legged beside him, reading from my notes. You ever think about what happens after graduation? He asked out of nowhere. Yeah, I said. All the time. And, I don't know. I want something stable. Something real. He was quiet for a moment. Yeah, he said softly. Same. I glanced at him. He was staring at the ceiling, but there was something different in his expression. Less cocky. More vulnerable. Joel? I asked before I could stop myself. You're not actually worried about the exam, are you? He let out a small breath that almost sounded like a laugh. No, he admitted. Then what? He turned his head slowly, eyes meeting mine again. And this time he didn't look away. That depends, he said quietly. You want the honest answer? My heart was beating way too fast for someone who had been discussing academic frameworks 10 seconds ago. Yeah, I said, he said. I think about who I'm going to leave behind. The room felt smaller. You're not leaving, I said automatically. Maybe not physically. There was something in his voice now. Something heavier. Joel, I started, but I didn't even know what I was going to say. Literally, everything went dark. Joel let out a short laugh. You've got to be kidding me. My heart was still racing, but now for a completely different reason. Breaker probably tripped, I said, standing up. Want help? No, I've got it. But as I walked toward the hallway, I could hear him getting up behind me anyway. Hold on, I muttered. My phone's in the kitchen. I've got mine, Joel said behind me. A second later, a dim white light cut through the darkness. It cast sharp shadows along the walls, outlining his face in a way that made him look different, more serious, less playful. You good? He asked again, quieter this time. Yeah, I said, though my voice didn't sound convincing. The breaker box was at the end of the hallway. I crouched down to open it, and Joel instinctively crouched beside me, holding the phone flashlight steady. Which one? He asked. The third from the left, I think. The power clicked back on with a sharp snap. The overhead lights flickered alive. Crisis averted, he said casually. Right. Crisis. That wasn't the word I would have used. We went back to the living room, but the energy had shifted. The easy joking, gone. The careless teasing, muted. Felt heavier now, charged. You're still tense, he said without looking at me. I'm not. Elliot. I hated when he used that tone. Soft, certain. He tilted his head back slightly to look up at me. Relax, he murmured. You ever think, he said slowly, that we pretend not to notice things? My throat went dry. Joel, I'm not stupid, Elliot. That hit harder than I expected. You think I don't see it? He asked quietly. See what? I forced out. The way you look at me. Everything inside me froze. There it was, out in the open. My instinct was to deny it, laugh it off, make a joke. But I was tired. It was almost 3 a.m. I'd been running on caffeine and tension for hours, and I didn't have the energy to lie anymore. So what if I do? I said before I could overthink it. The words hung in the air. Joel didn't look shocked. He looked relieved. Good, he said softly. I've been trying to figure this out for months, he admitted. Why I feel different around you. My pulse was racing. You don't have to say anything, he added quickly. If I'm wrong, we forget this ever happened. You're not wrong, I said. Probably. We have an exam in 5 hours, he said. If we don't sleep at least a little, we're actually doomed. Agreed. I'm glad you invited me over, he said. The sincerity in his voice caught me off guard. I'm glad you came. Sleep started creeping in. The alarm went off at 6:45 a.m., and that's when things got complicated. The alarm didn't just wake me up. It scared the life out of me. I jerked awake, disoriented, my phone vibrating violently on the nightstand, while sunlight pushed through the curtains in that unforgiving early morning way. For about 2 seconds, I had no idea where I was. Exam. Oh shit, I whispered, grabbing my phone. Joel, wake up. He groaned behind me, tightening his arm instinctively. No, he mumbled into the pillow. 5 more minutes. We have an exam. That did it. Joel shot upright like someone had poured cold water on him. What time is it? 6:47. The exam is at 8. We still have to shower, eat, commute. Joel blinked at me, then laughed. Actually laughed. You're unbelievable, he said, running a hand through his messy hair. I'm stressed. You're cute when you're stressed. That's not helpful. But I couldn't stop the small smile pulling at my mouth. The morning became chaos. 2 toothbrushes at my sink. Joel borrowing deodorant. Both of us tripping over backpacks and scattered notes like we'd forgotten how to exist normally. But underneath the rush, something softer lingered. Small glances, quiet smiles. The kind of awareness that doesn't disappear just because daylight shows up. We need caffeine or we're dead. The walk to campus was cold enough to wake us up properly. February air biting at our faces. Students moving around with that familiar exam day energy. Quiet panic disguised as productivity. Joel walked beside me, hands in his jacket pockets. For once, he wasn't talking much. "You okay?" I asked. He glanced over. "Yeah." That sounded like a lie. He exhaled. A cloud of breath in the cold air. We reached the campus steps and slowed down instinctively. Like we both knew this was where normal life resumed. Students everywhere. Noise. Movement. Familiarity. Joel bumped his shoulder into mine lightly. "Let's survive the exam first," he said. "Good plan. Then we talk." I nodded. Then we talk. The exam itself was surprisingly fine. Maybe it was adrenaline. I finished with 10 minutes to spare and sat there pretending to review answers while my brain replayed moments from the night before. I didn't realize I was smiling until the girl next to me glanced over. I coughed and looked back at my paper. Professional. Very professional. Outside the lecture hall, students gathered in clusters, post-exam analysis already underway. Joel was leaning against the wall waiting for me. The second he saw me, his face lit up. It was subtle, but it was there. "Well?" he asked. "I didn't fail. That's the energy we like." "You?" "Pretty sure I passed." We stood there awkwardly for a second. Public space. Public rules. Private memories. "So," he said. "So." A group of classmates walked past, pulling Joel into a quick conversation about question 6. He answered automatically, but his eyes kept flicking back to me. Waiting. When they finally left, he stepped closer. "Walk?" he asked. "Yeah." We ended up at a small campus park, one of those quiet spots students forget exists. Bare trees, empty benches, winter sunlight. Joel sat down first, elbows on his knees. I sat beside him, silence stretched, comfortable, nervous, important. "I meant what I said," Joel began. "About trying to figure this out." I listened. "I don't have everything labeled or understood yet," he admitted. "But what I feel around you is real." My chest tightened. "I don't need labels," I said quietly. "I just need honesty." He nodded immediately. "You have that." A pause. "And what do you want?" he asked. The question was simple. The answer wasn't. But when I looked at him, really looked, it felt clearer than it had in months. "I want to see where this goes," I said. Joel's shoulders dropped slightly, relief washing over him. Yeah. He smiled. Not cocky, not teasing, just happy. "Good," he said, "because I was hoping you'd say that." We sat there in the quiet winter sun. 2 exhausted college guys who had pulled an all-nighter that turned into something neither of us expected. Joel nudged my shoulder. "So," he said, "does this mean future study sessions are going to be distracting?" I laughed. "Very. Worth it." I looked at him. "Definitely worth it." He grinned. And for the first time since the alarm went off that morning, everything felt simple again. But what I didn't know yet was that the hardest part wasn't the confession. It was what came after. The first week after the exam felt like walking on a tightrope. Nothing dramatic happened. No explosions. No confrontations. We didn't tell anyone. Not at first. It wasn't a secret in the dramatic sense. It just felt fragile. Like something new that needed a minute to exist without outside opinions. 3 days after the exam, Joel texted me around 10 p.m. "Movie at your place?" I stared at the message, smiling like an idiot. "Study break," I replied. "Sure, let's call it that." When he showed up, there was no awkwardness. No grand discussion. He walked in like he always did. Except this time, when he dropped his backpack on the floor, he looked at me for half a second longer than usual. And then he kissed me. Just like that. Casual. Like it was normal. Like it had always been normal. You didn't even say hi, I said when we pulled apart. I did, he said. Just not verbally. I laughed, shaking my head. You're unbelievable. Still here, though. That part made my chest warm. We lay on the couch, movie playing in the background. Neither of us paying much attention. Felt easy. Natural. You nervous? I asked quietly. About what? This. He thought about it for a second. A little, he admitted. Not about you. Just how everything fits. That made sense. Joel wasn't used to questioning things about himself. He moved through life with a kind of effortless certainty most people envied. And now this was something new territory for him. You don't have to figure everything out right now, I said. I know. He brushed his thumb lightly against my side. I just don't want to mess it up. You won't. You're very confident for someone who overthinks literally everything. I contain multitudes. He laughed softly. Then his expression shifted. More serious. You ever feel like something's been right in front of you for a long time, but you only realize it when you stop pretending? I swallowed. Yeah. That's what this feels like. That one hit deep. Because it was exactly how I felt too. The first real complication came on Friday. We were in the campus cafeteria with our usual group, loud, chaotic, arguing about some random group project. Joel was sitting beside me, closer than usual. At one point, he leaned over to say something, and without thinking, his hand rested on my thigh. Not hidden, not subtle. I froze. He froze. Our friend Marcus noticed. His eyebrows shot up. Did I miss something? Marcus asked slowly. The table went quiet. Joel and I looked at each other. This was the moment. We could pull away, laugh it off, pretend. Instead, Joel left his hand exactly where it was, and looked at Marcus. No, he said calmly. You didn't miss anything. I just didn't mention it yet. Mention it. My pulse was in my ears. Marcus blinked. Wait, he said. Like, you too. Joel glanced at me briefly, not asking permission, just checking. I nodded. Yeah, Joel said simply. The silence that followed felt endless. Then Marcus leaned back in his chair. Huh, he said. That was it. Just huh. You're not freaking out? I asked cautiously. Marcus shrugged. Why would I? You guys make sense. Joel and I both stared at him. What? Marcus said. You've been orbiting each other for months. It was exhausting to watch. I felt my face heat up. Joel groaned. Shut up. No, seriously, Marcus continued. About time. The tension at the table dissolved almost instantly. Conversation resumed. No drama. No interrogation. Just acceptance. Under the table, Joel's fingers squeezed my thigh lightly. Relief. Gratitude. Something softer. Later that night, we walked back to my place. Cold air again. Quiet streets. You okay? Joel asked. Yeah. You looked like you were about to pass out. I thought we were about to lose friends. Joel stopped walking, turned to face me fully. You're not losing anyone, he said firmly. The certainty in his voice grounded me. And if someone has a problem, he continued, that's their issue. I searched his face. You're really okay with this? I asked. With you? He clarified. Yes. He stepped closer. Elliot, he said quietly. I don't do half measures. My heart stuttered. I'm not confused about how I feel about you. That landed heavy. Warm. Real. And how do you feel? I asked softly. He smiled small but honest. Like I don't want to go back to pretending. Neither did I. He leaned down, pressing his forehead gently against mine. Right there on the sidewalk. No hesitation. No hiding. And for the first time since that night in my living room, it didn't feel fragile anymore. Felt solid. But even solid things get tested. And the real test came the night Joel admitted something I wasn't prepared to hear. It happened on a random Tuesday night, which is how most life-altering conversations seem to start. Joel and I were back at my apartment again. Not studying this time. Just existing. He was stretched out on my bed, scrolling through something on his phone, while I sat at my desk pretending to work on a paper. We'd been official, if you could call it that, for about 3 weeks. Long enough that the awkwardness had faded. Long enough that touching him felt natural. Long enough that I'd started to relax. That's probably why his words hit harder than they should have. "Hey," he said casually. "Yeah." He didn't look up right away. "My ex texted me." My stomach dropped. It was such a simple sentence, but it landed like a weight. "You didn't tell me you had an ex," I said carefully. He finally looked at me. "I didn't think it mattered." "It doesn't," I replied quickly. "It did." He sat up, sensing the shift immediately. "Elliot." "It's fine," I said, and even I could hear how not fine that sounded. Joel set his phone face down on the bed. "It was from last year," he said. Before I figured stuff out." "Figured stuff out," I repeated. He exhaled slowly. "I dated her for 8 months. Her." The word echoed in my chest. "And?" I asked, trying to keep my voice neutral. "And she saw a picture of us," he said. I blinked. "What picture?" "The one Marcus posted. From the cafeteria. Right? The one where Joel's hand had been very obviously resting on my thigh." "Oh. And she texted you about it?" I asked. "Yeah." "And?" Joel hesitated, and that hesitation told me everything before he even spoke. "She asked if it was real," he admitted. "And what did you say?" His jaw tightened slightly. I didn't answer right away. There it was. That sharp, unpleasant sting. "You didn't answer," I repeated. "I was at practice," he said quickly. "I saw it, but I didn't know what to say." My chest felt tight. "Joel, it's not a trick question." "I know." "Then why hesitate?" He ran a hand through his hair, that nervous gesture again. "Because it felt final." I went still. "Final?" I asked quietly. Like if I answered, there was no going back. The words hung heavy between us. No going back. I swallowed. "Do you want to go back?" I asked. The silence that followed felt endless. Joel looked at me like he couldn't believe I'd even asked. "No," he said immediately. But I'd heard the pause earlier. "And what did you tell her?" I pushed. He held my gaze this time. "I told her yes," he said. "It's real." My shoulders loosened slightly, but the tension didn't fully disappear. "She didn't take it well," he added. "That's not your problem." "I know." But he looked conflicted, and that's what scared me. "Joel," I said quietly, "be honest with me." "I am." "No." "Fully honest." He went quiet, and when Joel went quiet, it meant he was choosing his words carefully. "I didn't expect this to feel this big," he admitted. "This? Us?" That hurt more than I wanted to admit. "Big how?" I asked. "Big like identity changing," he said. "Like I have to confront parts of myself I never had to question before." I stared at him. He wasn't doubting me. He was overwhelmed. But overwhelmed still felt dangerous. "I don't need you to have everything figured out," I said slowly. "But I do need to know you're not going to panic and disappear when it gets complicated." "I'm not disappearing," he said immediately. "Then what are you doing?" He stood up and walked over to me. Close. Close enough that I could see the conflict in his eyes. "I'm trying to do this right," he said. "What does that mean?" "It means I don't want you to feel like some experiment," he said firmly. "You're not that." The intensity in his voice softened something in me. "Then why did you hesitate?" I asked again. "Because," he said, voice lower now. "When she asked if it was real, it hit me that this isn't just a phase or curiosity." "And that scared you?" "Yes." The honesty knocked the air out of me. Not because he was unsure about me, but because he was terrified of what it meant for him. "I've never had to explain myself like this," he continued. "To family, to old friends, to people who've known me a certain way for years." I stood up slowly. We were face to face now. "And are you ashamed?" I asked quietly. His reaction was immediate. No. No hesitation. No pause. Not of you, he said. Not of us. Then what? Change, he admitted. That I understood. More than I wanted to. I stepped closer. You don't have to solve your entire identity this week, I said. You just have to decide if I'm worth figuring it out. His expression shifted. The uncertainty melted into something clearer. You are, he said. No hesitation this time. You are, he repeated softer. My chest loosened. He reached for my hands. I didn't answer her right away because I knew that once I said yes, I wasn't just admitting it to her. I was admitting it to myself. And now I don't regret it. The room felt quieter, steadier. You should have told me immediately, I said gently. You're right. I don't want to feel like I'm waiting for you to choose. You're not, he said firmly. I chose. I just needed a second to realize how big the choice was. That landed differently. Not rejection. Recognition. He leaned forward, pressing his forehead lightly against mine again. His favorite grounding move. I'm not going back, he murmured. Good, I whispered. Because I should have known it wouldn't stay contained to campus forever. It happened on a Sunday. Joel and I were at his apartment this time, rare, but not unheard of. His place was bigger than mine, cleaner, with framed photos on the wall that told a very specific story. High school football team, family vacations, a smiling blonde girl I now recognized from Instagram, the ex. We were on the couch, half watching a game, half distracted with each other. My legs were draped over his lap, his fingers absent-mindedly tracing patterns along my shin. Comfortable, until his phone rang. He glanced at the screen and immediately straightened. Mom, he muttered. My stomach tightened instinctively. You can take it, I said. He nodded, but before answering, he looked at me, like he was bracing himself. That look alone made my pulse pick up. Hey, he said into the phone, casual but slightly tighter than usual. Yeah, I'm home. I tried not to listen. Failed. There's something about hearing someone talk to their parents that makes everything feel more real. Yeah, I saw, he said after a moment. My ears sharpened. Saw? A pause. No, it's not a joke. My chest went cold. Joel's jaw tightened slightly. Yes, Mom. It's real. Silence from his end. Then, I didn't tell you because I wanted to figure it out first. My fingers curled slightly against his thigh. He glanced at me again, and this time there was something protective in his expression. No, I'm not confused, he said more firmly now. I'm not being pressured. And no, this isn't a phase. Every word hit like a pulse in my ears. I stared at the floor, giving him privacy while feeling completely exposed. Another pause. Longer. Mom, he said, voice softer now. I'm still me. That one almost broke me. He stood up suddenly and walked a few steps away, lowering his voice. I caught fragments. Care about him. No, I didn't plan this. I'm not throwing anything away. My chest tightened at that phrase. Throwing anything away. Football scholarships. Expectations. The version of Joel everyone thought they knew. After a few more tense seconds, he exhaled sharply. I have to go, he said finally. We'll talk later. He hung up. The silence that followed was loud. He stood there for a second, phone still in his hand. Then he looked at me, and for the first time since I'd known him, he looked unsure. I sat up slowly. You don't have to tell me what she said, I offered quietly. I want to, he said. He walked back over and sat beside me. She saw the picture, he explained. Aunt Lisa follows Marcus. Apparently the internet moves fast. Of course it does. She wasn't angry, he continued. She was scared. For you, I asked. For what this means, he said. And what does it mean? I asked softly. He looked at me. It means her son isn't who she thought he was. The words weren't cruel. They were honest. And honesty hurts sometimes. I swallowed. You are who you are, I said carefully. I know. But I've never had to explain myself like this to my family. There it was again. The weight of identity. The cost of being seen. Did she say something specific? I asked. Joel hesitated. She asked if I was sure, he admitted. If I was willing to risk complications. Complications, I repeated quietly. Dad's side of the family isn't exactly progressive, he added. That made sense. He leaned back against the couch, rubbing his face. I told her I'm not throwing my life away, he said. I told her I'm choosing it. That hit deep. You said that? I asked. He nodded. I said I care about you. The room felt smaller, warmer, scarier. She didn't hang up on me, he added. That's something. I let out a small breath. That is something. Silence settled between us again. Not awkward, but heavy. You don't have to fight everyone at once, I said gently. I'm not fighting, he replied. I'm just standing still. That made me smile faintly. He turned toward me fully. Elliot, he said quietly. Yeah. I need you to know something. My heart jumped. This isn't temporary for me, he continued. I'm not experimenting. I'm not rebelling. I'm not confused. I held his gaze. I'm choosing you, he said. The simplicity of it almost knocked the air out of me. You don't owe me that, I said softly. I know, but I need you to hear it. His hand reached for mine.